From my next guest as well. Douglas Murray is the best-selling author of The Madness of Crowds and, of course, The Strange Death of Europe as well. The paperback of The Madness of Crowds are out right now. I'm delighted to say he joins us to talk about Tony Abbott. Good morning to you, Douglas.
Good morning. Great to be with you, Julia.
Lovely to be with you. Tony Abbott, I mean, this story has really erupted in the last couple of days. He was mooted as a possible new trade envoy for the UK. We know that Liz Truss, the International Trade Secretary, has put him forward. It was pretty much thought that it was definitely going to happen. Now the BBC, get them confused, Number 10, getting a little bit cold feet on the issue because of these accusations that he is a misogynist, that he is a homophobe, denier of climate change, the worst heresy, of course. Do you think he is any of those things? And do you think, even if he is, that it's remotely relevant to the job advising the British government on trade?
You know, Julia, sometimes you feel this is just not a grown-up country anymore. Just a country somehow run by kids and worse. Tony Abbott is the former Prime Minister of Australia. He's a very distinguished public servant in Australia. And by the way, a great admirer and lover of Britain. And God knows this country needs friends and supporters at this time in our history. Tony Abbott agrees to be put forward for a role that he's very suited for to help this country in the trade, the real adult discussions we need to have of trade and how we're going to get jobs and much more flowing in this country. And what does the British media do? What does Sky do? What do the BBC do? They play the game of hunt the homophobe. You know, let's find the person who wasn't on board with gay marriage 20 years ago when, Julia, you and I know no one was on board with gay marriage.
Including many gay rights activist groups.
Stonewall never advocated for gay marriage, the biggest gay group in the UK. But, you know, it's not just that. Then they say, oh, he once said something about women that doesn't quite fit the bill. And he's questioned climate change, which, you know, whereas he should have, like all the decent celebrities like Stephen Fry, advocated a tax on buildings and a tax on think tanks yesterday in the name of Extinction Rebellion. He should have been like that, shouldn't he? That's what all decent people do. All decent people support Extinction Rebellion, whose founder was yesterday found to have suggested that MPs should have a bullet put in their head. You know, that's the normal thing you do these days. You don't question things. You don't just be a normal person. You've got to be signed up to this whole smorgasbord of extremism. And because Tony Abbott hasn't signed up to all of that, they've come for him with every trick they've got.
Well, this is it. It seems to me he's, for want of a better description, he's a 62-year-old Australian man, and he has the views that one might expect. It's also interesting, of course, a lot of his views on, for instance, like gay marriage. I mean, bearing in mind when they did have that vote in Australia a few years back, 38% of people voted against it. Now, I'm in favour of equal marriage for gay people. I know a lot of gay friends of mine were not in favour of that. And as you said at the time, that was quite a sort of revolutionary idea. It wasn't something that was widely supported. Yeah. There's been a big change in views on that. But his views on this are based on the fact he is a devout Catholic. He considered the priesthood at one point. And a number of his views, his conservative, the small c views, are based on his Catholicism. Yeah. I wonder whether his views on that would be acceptable to the woke left if he was a Muslim, because it seems to me the Quran, not that big on gay rights last time I looked.
No, it's not. It's definitely not a big pink document. And, you know, the thing is that Tony Abbott, as you say, is a Catholic. And that is one of the unforgivable things these days, to be a practicing Christian, because you've got to jump through these hurdles. And by the way, there's a very interesting thing here, isn't there? It's what I call boot on the other footism. When gay rights was advancing, it quite rightly demanded acceptance. And now gay rights is totally accepted. It's proving to be woefully unaccepting of anything else. And this is a very, very ugly and bad sign. And I can say this myself, perhaps because I'm gay, but I'm bored of this. I'm bored of these people. I'm bored of these people who think that British trade policy should primarily be dictated by your views on gay rights of the last 20 years. It's not grown up.
No, I had people on social media saying to me yesterday, but how could he help negotiate a trade deal that would be beneficial to gay people and women because of his views, which I found quite bizarre. I mean, let's
look. He's obviously going to do a carve out to make sure the gays and the women can't get various bits of like milk. And
we'll face tariffs. We'll face tariffs, but for straight white men or something. But what's interesting also, his own sister, Tony Abbott's sister, Christine, who herself a woman and herself gay, they were on opposite sides of the debate on gay marriage, but stayed very, very close. He attended her gay wedding when it became legal, wished her all the best. She says they're very, very close. She says he's not a misogynist, not a homophobe. I've got to be honest with you, I think that's good enough for me.
Look, it's good enough for any sane person, and it should never have got there. Tony Abbott should be able to get this position without having to have a gay sister on his side. If he'd been born as a single child, would he still be in trouble? You know, this is the problem of the thing we're getting into here. It's boring, it's wrong, it's juvenile, it's not up to a serious country of the kind that we should be. Tony Abbott is an excellent public servant. He has been for Australia. It is extremely kind of him to want to lend his talents to the UK. And the fact that a portion of the UK returns to him and returns that favour with this juvenile, oh, you're not gay enough, you're not female enough, you're not green enough. We've got to grow up. Otherwise, we face the prospect of sailing off into the world completely friendless, and it will be our own fault.
Well, let's also talk about sailing off into the world. We know, of course, he helped negotiate these deals with China, Japan and South Korea. It'd be great to have his insight and input on that, and indeed or deals with Australia and New Zealand, but certainly with China, a big trading nation. But of course, we're always told we exercise a lot of soft power in the world through things like the BBC and the World Service and all of the programmes created, radio and television through that. New Director General of the BBC, Tim Davies, gives a big speech in his first week in the job, has talked about how he wants to cut down programming by 20%, get back to sort of a bit more of the basics of what the BBC is supposed to provide. He's also said he thinks that stars on the BBC should not be giving their personal views, their political views on social media. What do you make of what he's had to say?
Well, look, it's a step in the right direction, and we'll see if he has any luck doing it. I would have thought that the stars at the BBC, like Emily Maitlis and others, who have been excellent journalists in the past, but who now seem to regard part of their job as directing the public mood via social media. I'd have thought that they will be very hard to rein in after the era they've just been allowed to have. I'm all for a BBC that provides quality content and focuses on things that commercial stations might have trouble focusing on. The arts, you know, education and much, much more. And I look at the BBC as it's been in recent years, and I've seen something which basically only competes with commercial stations, and other than that regards itself as the main pulpit to preach to the nation that it seems not to like all that much.
Well, we shall wait and see what happens. We'll put Douglas Murray in charge of the Beeb. That would be fun. Douglas Murray, always a pleasure to speak to you. He's, of course, the author of The Madness of Crowds, best-selling book, just out in paperback this week.